Hi, my name is Peter O'Dunn. Welcome to Mid-Atlantic Rubber Company. I wrote about Mid-Atlantic Rubber Company in the book From Rust to Trust, so I wanted to invite you inside the company and talk a little bit about the company. And before we go inside, one of the comments I'd make is that you really can't judge a building like this from the outside, just like you can't judge an individual from the outside. You have to get inside of the building to see what the culture's like. The same way you have to get inside an individual to see what their inside is like. And what we're going to do is walk inside, and I'm going to share with you some of the principles and best practices of Mid-Atlantic Rubber Company. We're inside the values tunnel at Mid-Atlantic Rubber Company, and the starting point of the values tunnel is to point out our vision statement for the company, and it's together Mid-Atlantic Rubber will dramatically impact the lives of our employees and our families. That's really where we start, and we talk about our mission statement, and inside of our mission statement we always talk about our principles. So our principles are simple. We've got 3 different principles. We've got focus, prevention, and interdependence. And focus is all about our teams. We divide the company up into 3 different teams: a sales team, a cash flow team, and our warehouse team is our production team. And we also look at our prevention, and the process that we use for prevention is our ISO 9002, and we've been certified for just about since 2002, I believe. And the last value principle that we have is interdependence. And the process that we use for interdependence is our 7 habits of highly effective people. The values that we have in the company are trust, continuous improvement, leadership, growth, and relationships. And we're here to talk about the culture, and we've identified a number of things in our culture that are very specific about us, and you can see them down there underneath of the culture. So this side of our values tunnel is labeled Applying the 7 Habits, and it's the 7 habits of highly effective people. This is the process that we use to get to interdependence, and interdependence is really the highest maturity continuum in this diagram. And so where we start is with dependence, then independence, and then interdependence. And I want to just take you just very briefly through the 7 habits. And going from dependence, everyone begins at a dependent level. If we hire a new employee, they're dependent for a few weeks until they figure out how the things work within a company. So any role that you're in, you always start at dependence. The first 3 habits: habit number 1, be proactive; habit number 2, beginning with the end in mind; and habit number 3, put first things first, form the private victory, and they take us from being dependent to being independent. And as we become independent, we can now rely on our own responsibility. We don't have to depend on other people. So the private victory is about the individual and mastering the individual, self-mastery. Moving from independence to interdependence, we look at the next 3 habits. Habit number 4, think win-win. Habit number 5, seek first to understand. And habit number 6, is to synergize. And these three habits form the public victory. These three habits of moving from independence to interdependence are all about relationships with other people. The last habit is habit number 7, which is the continuous improvement habit. This is the habit of sharpening the saw. So let's talk about the 7 habits in detail. I'm going to talk about each habit, a little bit of a description, and then I'm going to talk about an effective paradigm and an ineffective paradigm. And I'll tell you the principle that's associated with the habit and maybe just a comment about the behavior that you would see when the habit is being performed. So habit number 1 is the first habit, and it's the most important habit, and it's called to be proactive. It is called the habit of choice, and in description it would be no matter what the circumstances are, all of us have the power to choose what we will do about things that happen to us. Habit number 1 begins the journey from dependence to independence and our mastery of our private victory. The ineffective paradigm is that I am a product of my circumstances. The key word is that I blame other people or I blame events for my choices. The effective paradigm is the opposite of that. If I'm living the effective paradigm, I am a product of my choices. I am responsible for my own choices. So the key word with habit number 1, being proactive, is to be responsive and to take initiative. Key word is to take initiative. I do things when there's no penalty for not doing them. The principle associated with this first habit is I am free to choose and I'm responsible for my choices. We are not created equal in terms of our past conditioning, circumstances, or abilities. However, this habit assumes that regardless of our circumstances, we still have the freedom, even if it's a small amount, to choose our response to those circumstances. If we follow this principle, we will see increased influence, more self-awareness, greater initiative, and we will be a creative force in our lives. The behavior associated with habit number 1 is that we pause and we respond based on principles. We use proactive language and we expand our circle of influence and we become a transition person. So habit number 2 is to begin with the end in mind. Habit number 2 is the habit of vision, also called the leadership habit. Once we recognize that we have the power to choose in habit 1, we get to decide where to go and what we want to create. The ineffective paradigm with habit 2 is that I live by default. Life happens to us. We act before envisioning on a clear outcome. And when we do this, we are at the mercy of circumstances and other people. The effective paradigm is that I live a life by design. Highly effective people take time to clarify outcomes. They approach projects, meetings, relationships, and lives with a plan and a design in mind. The principle associated with habit number 2 is that all things are created twice. Mental creation precedes physical creation. First in the mind is an idea or a design, and secondly is a physical creation. Highly effective people create everything twice, whether it's meetings, projects, key conversations, or their own lives. The result of living an effective habit 2 is a clear definition of desired results, a greater sense of meaning and purpose, criteria for deciding what's important and what's not important, and improved outcomes. And the behavior is that we envision our outcomes before we act. We create and live by a personal mission statement. Habit number 3 is the last habit of the private victory. It is called putting first things first. It is the habit of integrity and execution. It's where we put our plans into place and we follow through on them with integrity. The ineffective paradigm is I put urgent things first. We are driven by crisis rather than priorities. The effective paradigm is that I put important things first. Highly effective people resist the urge to put urgent things first. They have a habit of prioritizing what's important and saying no to the less important things. The principle associated with habit 3 is that effectiveness requires the integrity to act on your priorities. This habit requires discipline and consistent effort. The results you'll see is increased organization and productivity, fewer crises, and a reputation for following through, more life balance, and a peace of mind. And the behavior associated with habit 3 is that we focus on top priorities, we eliminate the unimportant, we plan weekly, and we plan daily. Habit number 4 is called Think Win-Win. It's the first habit of the public victory. It's the habit of mutual benefit. It's the foundational habit for the public victory. Win-win is not a technique. It comes from the belief that others should be respected, that you want them to win too. It's all about attitude. It takes independent people to think win-win. The ineffective paradigm is that there's only so much to go around, and the more you get, the less I get. People with this paradigm have difficulty sharing, especially with recognition and credit. They feel that something's being taken away from them when someone else succeeds. This is the paradigm of scarcity. The effective paradigm says that there's plenty to go around for everyone and more to spare. People with this paradigm can share with others because they have an inner sense of personal worth and security. They are not threatened by the success of others. This is the paradigm of abundance. The principle associated with habit 4 is effective long-term relationships require mutual respect and mutual benefit. The results you'll see are faster solutions to problems, more team involvement, generosity of spirit, and rich relationships. And finally, the behavior in habit 4 is to balance courage and consideration, to seek mutual benefit, to create win-win agreements, and to build win-win systems. Habit number 5 is to seek first to understand, then to be understood. It is the listening habit, or the habit of mutual understanding. It's all about the skill required to achieve public victory. Habit number 4 was about the attitude required for public victory. The ineffective paradigm says, I listen with the intent to reply. We are preparing our response as we listen to others instead of really trying to understand. The focus is on our needs and desires, not the speaker's. The effective paradigm says, I listen with the intent to understand. Highly effective people listen for real understanding. They might ultimately agree or disagree with the speaker, but while they are listening, they set aside their own opinion so their minds are clear enough to really hear and feel what is being said. The principle associated with habit 5 is to communicate effectively with me, you must first understand me. Effective communication takes place only in an environment of trust. The more people understand one another, the more they trust one another. The results you see in habit 5 are greater influence with others, solutions to complex problems, clarity on real issues, and faster problem solving. The behavior associated with habit 5 is to diagnose before you prescribe, to listen empathically, to seek to be understood from the other's perspective. Habit number 6 is to synergize. It is the habit of creative cooperation, and it is the practical fulfillment of habits 4 and 5. It's what happens when 2 or more people live in habit 4 and habit 5. The ineffective paradigm is that it's either your way or my way or a compromise. People with this paradigm think win-lose or lose-win, or they give up so quickly and go for compromise. This paradigm may get quick results, but it does not foster creativity. It fosters poor results. The effective paradigm says together we can create a better way, a higher way. If we have this paradigm, we value the differences in others, we are open to new possibilities, and we foster interdependence and superb, innovative results. The principle associated with habit 6 says the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Synergy means creating something that's never been created before. It emerges from a willingness of 2 or more people to seek an alternative that's better than any of them could have come up with alone. 1 + 1 = 10, 100, or even 1,000. The behavior associated says that we value and we celebrate differences, and we practice creative cooperation. Habit number 7 is called Sharpen the Saw, and it's the habit of renewal or continuous improvement. It makes living all the other habits possible. It encompasses both the private victory and the public victory. That's because in order to live habits 1 through 6 effectively, we need to commit to sharpening the saw. The ineffective paradigm is that I focus only on getting the golden eggs. People with this paradigm are likely to produce a lot of golden eggs for a while. They are driven by the clock, not by the compass. They put urgent things before important things, but in the end, they stop getting golden eggs because the goose dies. The effective paradigm says that I nurture the goose that lays the golden eggs. People with this paradigm have the discipline and imagination to find ways to nurture the goose. They understand that sharpening the saw will make them more effective in every other role that they have. The principle associated with habit 7 is to maintain and increase effectiveness. We must renew ourselves in body, heart, mind, and soul. It's all about PC balance, production and production capability balance. It's about getting superb results today in a way that allows us to get results over and over again. The results are improved capacity, stronger relationships, greater reserves, and of course, continuous improvement. The behavior associated with habit 7 is to renew regularly in the 4 dimensions of our life, to be strong in the hard moments. Thank you for coming inside of Mid-Atlantic Rubber Company. We end up where we began, talking about our vision statement. Everything that I've told you about the company, and especially the 7 habits, allows us to fulfill our vision statement to dramatically impact our employees, the lives of our employees, and the lives of the employees' family.